Which celebrity have you lost total respect for and why? Pissed with Robin Williams for dying before I could hug him. I met him once in an elevator and was so starstruck as I'd never seen a celebrity in person before. He made a crack about my arms being as hairy as his. When celebrities die, even my favorites, I'm not too worked up over it. But when Robin Williams and Anthony Bourdain died, it messed me up for a bit. They were heroes of mine. I'll mention a group, actor Scientologists. When the whole Scientology news exploded roughly 8 years ago, lost all respect. The irony of Elizabeth Moss in The Handmaid's Tale. Lan Watkins of Lost Prophets. I feel like saying losing respect doesn't do this justice. Elizabeth Moss, how do you play the main character in a show like The Handmaid's Tale, yet practice Scientology in your personal life? I don't get it. Oprah. She did a special once on the Holocaust but made it all about her. It was very distasteful. We watched it back in high school, and even the teacher turned it off. To be fair, I had never watched her or her show before, but that experience soured her for me. Shia Labeouf used to be a huge crush of mine. But after seeing his extremely public drunken abusive spells and reading the court documents of his abuse to his ex-GF, I can never look at him the same. Chris Brown. How does he even still have fans or followers? I don't understand this at all. He's a violent psychopath. Yeah, some celebs do bad things but make their best to atone/show remorse after or grow as a person. Nothing Chris Brown has done since indicates either. This pandemic showed a lot of celebs to be self-centered and out of touch. I lost respect for everyone in that awful Imagine rendition. Imagine no possessions they sing while sitting in their billion-dollar mansions. Meanwhile the rest of us are losing our jobs. We're all in the same boat together. No we're not, holes. We're all in the same ocean, but you're in yachts while the rest of us are in rickety canoes hoping that we don't spring a leak. For someone not already listed here, I'll go with Ellen. Used to respect her a lot for being a trailblazer before everything came to light in 2020. As a kid from an Asian country that wasn't so nice to LGBT back in the late 90s, she was a blessing to me when I was growing up since her show helped me accepted my sexuality. I even used her show to test the water and soften my parents' view of LGBT before coming out. And on the side, helped me improve my English as well. However, couldn't say I was surprised her issues were brought to light. I found some of her skit like the Mccarthy thing went too far, they weren't funny anymore. Glad I didn't take up on her real personality. I've known this since 2013. I've hated how people would just praise and love this evil bee even after what happened. There was a boy in Boston named Sam Burns who was diagnosed with an extremely rare rapid aging disease, similar to the Benjamin Button disease. He was a massive Ellen fan and his only wish was to see her on set and have a little talk with her. So his family and the Jimmy Fund and the folks from the city of Boston actually made it happen. Got him and his family tickets to LA and went to her set. Only to be completely ignored by Ellen. She literally refused to see him. Said no a number of times. There were no cameras around so she didn't think it was worth it. ISU not. Sam died from the disease a year later without ever meeting his hero. His parents were clearly upset. I remember them coming on the radio to talk about. They were devastated and just didn't understand why she couldn't meet him. Every year WEET, Boston Sports Radio, spends 2 days doing a radiothon for the Jimmy Fund and cancer research. They would interview patients and doctors, actually real moving stuff listening to these people. But Sam and his family would go on every year telling their story. So people were familiar with him and his condition. So to hear the story of them and Ellen was heartbreaking. I have lost respect for her ever since then. All that kid wanted was to meet her. And she just refused. And at times Sam and his family were maybe 20 feet from her and she still refused to walk over there just to chit-chat. F. Ellen DeGeneres, she is AB and always has been. I am so glad she fell and people truly know her. Greg Fitzsimmons and Mike Gibbons both worked on her show and they have been talking about how she was treating people for years. They have some pretty good stories. Emma Roberts. I love American Horror Story. But I have such a beef with her after she beat up her ex-boyfriend. I just hate all abusers, but nobody talks about it enough. Lizzo. after she started sexually harassing Chris Evans. Talking about her sexually explicit fantasies about him during an interview was just uncomfortable. If he'd made the comments about her that she made about him, he'd be cancelled immediately. Then she ran into Chris Brown backstage somewhere and was filmed fangirling over him and called him her favorite person. Yeah, the same Chris Brown, who nearly killed Rihanna, whose other ex has a restraining order against him, who has continuously proven since the Rihanna incident that he's a violent piece of S and a danger to women. That's your favorite person? Not as bad as most of the answers on here, but absolutely lost any respect I had for her after that point. Chevy Chase. Just hearing about how unprofessional he was throughout making Community. Fortunately for the show's sake it's so good and elevated itself beyond his reputation, but makes me lose all interest in things he's done before and might do in the future. Kevin Hart. Quit cheating on your wives, dude. Chris Brown. The whole he hit Rihanna thing was downplayed in the media. Read the actual police report and you'll see that he tormented and even attempted to kill her. And this man is still walking and making music and garnering fans. Really does make me sick. I will never understand why people still support him. His career should have ended when he hurt Rihanna. Madonna. Ever since I found out she dumped her 3 chihuahuas at a dodgy kill shelter and one of them died after having its face mauled while the other 2 were basically starving by the time they were rescued. She was literally Madonna. She could have found them a good home. Or literally hired someone just to care for them. She's completely effed up. She's so beyond out of touch with reality. We worked on her last tour and not only did she have every single shower head in the building removed but insisted on bathing in Evian bottled water. The list for preparing for her arrival was one ridiculous request after another. She would also have everyone show up for work at 3 p.m. and not show up until almost midnight to start rehearsals. So the whole staff preparing for this tour had essentially worked an entire workday when she decided to show up to rehearse. Then would for them to work another 6 to 8 hours. The money was good but you basically didn't live your life, see your kids or sleep for a couple of months because she can't get her S together and has zero consideration for anyone else. Workers and fans. Same thing. With her shows. Showing up 2 to 3 hours late. All of that to cancel the whole tour after a few shows. Just chill with your kids and let yourself age. No one wants to watch a 20-year-old man drag your old ass across the stage because you can barely dance anymore. I didn't know about the dogs. It just makes me dislike her even more. Prince Andrew. For minor reasons. Eric Clapton. He's responsible for Rock Against Racism in the sense that he is the racism they were rocking against, not that he organized it. He refused to play any venues that required masks/vaccines, and recently sued a German senior citizen for selling a bootleg Clapton album that belonged to her deceased husband. He'd purchased it from a German department store. She had it listed for like $12. Allison Mack from Smallville. She was a leader in a cult that exploited women and made them sex slaves. Currently in prison. She's serving 3 years only. This whole thread is making me wonder why people idolize celebrities in the first place. Danny Masterson thought he was cool but later found out he is a higher up in Scientology and got away with raping the wife of Cedric Bixler Zavala, singer of the Mars Volta, and poisoned 2 of his dogs. Anyone that we find had ties with Epstein. I can't stand Mike Epps after finding out how he treats his old children, that's how he refers to them. He has 2 older daughters that he had with a woman before getting famous. He treats the mother of his children I guess and has made fun of her appearance because she's dark-skinned. He refers to her as Rick James and says his daughters are half Rick James. During an interview a few years ago the interviewer asked how many kids he has and he only counted the kids he has with his current wife, and when his eldest daughter got upset and called him out he called her threatening her wife and cussing her out, then joked about it afterwards. He has said that his old, ugly kids are jealous of his never cute kids because they're mixed race with good hair. He also photoshopped his literal toddler daughter to make her hair look longer and straighter and her eyes and skin lighter. J Simpson. He was so clearly phoning in his performance in The Naked Gun 33 1/3, and didn't do Nordberg justice. I was so put off that I completely stopped following his career after that. The more I hear about this OJ guy, the more I think he's a real jerk. I thought Onajan was alright. Ha 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 ha, God, was I wrong. I've lost all respect for him and more. T.I. That dude was cool until he said he was getting his daughter checked for her virginity. Nick Cannon. Anyone that worked with Polanski after he raped a 13-year-old still went on to win Oscars, etc., and actors, writers, and producers all still totally fine with supporting someone like that. Or people who, you know, stood up and applauded him at the Oscars, i.e. Meryl Streep. I think the list of ones I haven't lost respect for would be shorter. Robert Downey Jr. Mad respect for kicking addiction's ass and turning his entire life around. Chad Michael Murray. I waited in line for a Nintendo Wii the day they came out. It was outside of a Best Buy. Some people camped out. I got there before sunrise, but not crazy early. It was a fun environment. Once the staff got there, they told everyone how the sale would work, got everyone excited, and I think handed out some stuff. About 20 minutes before the store opened, Chad Michael Murray pulled up in a black SUV, right to the front of the line. Like, literally parked his car in the fire lane right at the front of the line, and got out. It was summer and he was wearing a leather jacket. He was clearly expecting people to be excited to see him. I was close enough to the front to hear him. He went up to the employee who was coordinating everything, and said he was here for his Nintendo. The guy was nice, and basically said what he would to anyone. Great, you're in the right place. Get in line. CMM says that he was told there would be one saved for him. The guy didn't know what he was talking about. After a little back and forth and another employee getting involved, he walks away with his Nintendo. He clearly thought everyone would cheer for him as he walked away. But they ran out of Nintendos that day. Some kid went home empty-handed. I still get furious thinking about it. I'm still utterly furious at Mason Greenwood. Edit. Manchester United footballer whose girlfriend published evidence of him beating, abusing, and threatening her with rape last weekend. Drake Bell. I loved Drake and Josh growing up, so thought he was a pretty cool guy. Then OFC everything came forth recently about him being a pedophile, and apparently he has also been grifting people with cryptocurrency even more recently. I have no respect left for the man at all. Edit. NFTs not crypto, my bad. Bill Cosby. He wasn't like Cliff Huxtable at all. If you discount all the actual rapists, and rape apologists, and flat-out racists, I'd say Andy D. I never respected Andy D, but I grew to hate him over time. Hollywood in general is full of disgusting people, but he seems to take the cake for being an abysmally disgusting and horrendous person. I would say Jeffree Star, but I never had respect for him in the first place. Elle Macpherson. She chose the lying con man Andrew Wakefield? What the actual F? Conor Mcgregor punching old CS. He punched the old C, bought the local bar and banned him from entering. BoJack Horseman. Heard that dude went downhill after the cancellation of Horsing Around. Also, that thing with Sarah Lynn? Goddamn. Zero respect. Mason Greenwood. As a Manchester United fan, heartbroken. But hope his ex gets the justice and recovers. Nick Cannon. Stop impregnating women, bro. Billy Corgan. The Smashing Pumpkins was one of my all-time favorites, but God, he is such a D-bag. Mariah Carey is a complete C to food service workers. I know a restaurant owner who used to co-own a celebrity hangout in NYC, and he said Jennifer Lopez was the worst guest he's ever served, celebrity or not. She was ridiculously rude and arrogant, and by the end of the night, he and his entire staff hated her. Gwyneth Paltrow. Goop the medical information, that's just wrong. The $100 vagina candle, the recipes, it's just nonsense, and she's not a bad actress. My favorite is the tweet of her drinking alkaline water every morning with a spritz of lemon in it, meaning she's taking the pH right back to neutral where all water is. LOL. Gwyneth Paltrow. She told women to steam clean their vaginas, and made a candle that smells like her own vagina. Just lots of no thanks for me. Joss Whedon. Dude was my idol as a storyteller for almost 2 decades. Firefly, Buffy, Angel, Dollhouse, Cabin in the Woods, etc. All were very near and dear to my heart. Then the cascade of stories about what a sadistic a hole he is, how he constantly mistreated his actors and writers, how he was such a serial cheater, and how he reacted to it all. I still respect his work. I do not respect the man. Tyra Banks. The ways she exploits and abuses vulnerable contestants for views. Disgusting. It goes deeps. She's as bad as Wendy in her own way. So, this one is an entirely personal issue. But I used to work at a hotel and Jerry Seinfeld was staying there while doing a show and he was incredibly rude. Yelling at staff about mild inconveniences and stuff. Basically he went full Karen, even said that he'll never use this hotel chain again. In his defense, this all happened late at night after he was returning from a show, so maybe he just was having a bad night, so I don't want to say he's a terrible person. Just he was very rude to me and my co-workers and it's left a bad taste in my mouth ever since. LDK if he counts as a celebrity, but I effing despise Dr. Phil now. Not only did he send trouble kids to a child labor and endangering camp, made an excuse for it, but he also literally told a male abuse victim that he was abusive for fighting back and that he's a scumbag. The list is way too long, but let's start with the Epstein flight logs. Honestly, John Mulaney goes on a bender, tells his wife he doesn't want kids, leaves her and pretty quickly after that has a baby with Olivia Munn. There's a lot more to it, but it doesn't make him look any better. Marilyn Manson. He used to be my hero when I was a teen and up into adulthood. He is a talented artist and someone I used to respect and sort of look up to. His music, poems, and paintings inspired me many times throughout my life with my own art and self-expression. While I saw behavior from him before the allegations were made public that was questionable, I always excused it by saying he was an eccentric artist and that deep down he's actually a good guy. In my early teens I read his biography Long Hard Road Out of Hell and took most of it to be work of fiction, but as a teenager didn't realize how misogynistic and sadistic his writing was. As an adult I read the book again and it was kind of disturbing to me the things I noticed that I didn't notice back then. It's hard to see your hero's true colors. I guess there's a reason people say don't meet your heroes. I find it difficult to really feel connected to someone who sings about how we're all in this together yet they need to drive a small vehicle to go from one side of their property to the other so they can enjoy their pool. Steven Seagal. Because he is the world's worst actor bar none. Vin Diesel. My dad's close friend used to work for a filming company and they worked on Fast and Furious 9. He said that out of all of the people he have worked with Vin Diesel is the worst. Very unfriendly and at one point something minor, can't remember the exact thing, happened that made Vin Diesel so mad he just went home. It took letters and emails from the corporate side to get him to finish filming. On the other hand, Vin Diesel's stunt double was one of the best people my dad's friend has worked with. He was very cooperative. Can confirm, worked on Furious 7. Vin Diesel is one of the biggest D-heads in Hollywood. He would stay in his trailer playing video games for hours while the entire crew waited on set, ready to go. Complete lack of respect for everyone working around him. We would film everything we could without him, leaving him to come do his bits alone, hours into overtime. We wound up taking a big crew photo during one of the waits and when he heard about it, he made us all retake the photo with him in the middle. Over the course of the production, his team got scooters to move quicker through the large studio lot spaces between stages and base camp. Other crew members noticed and started to buy the same scooters. Eventually a memo went out that there were no more scooters allowed on the lot. Didn't apply to his team though. There's good reasons why Jason Statham and The Rock hate him so much. Unprofessional, insecure, candy-ass D-weed. Heard a great story from Fast 8 about how the crew started trolling him. They had a bunch of no candy asses stickers made after The Rock's tweet. Crew started putting them in random locations all over stage, set, equipment. One day someone put one directly on a stunt pad where he was supposed to land. He saw it and just went home for the day. Made me smile. Joss Whedon. Bloke throws up the whole feminist ally thing and it turns out he's just as much of a creep and a jerk as some of the worst in Hollywood. Talk about being fake. James Corden, Ellen, and Dr. Phil. Mark Wahlberg. Dude is a straight-up S-bag. He has committed multiple hate crimes, attempted murder, assaults, dealing drugs. List goes on. Surprised the Kardashians aren't here yet. But specifically Kourtney. I don't watch the show, but the random clips I see, the entitlement and self-adoration she has is infuriating. And so distant from reality. It seems like some of them understand they are way better off and should be grateful, but Kourtney acts like she deserves her fortune more than others. But the main was that her kid scratched or hit a nanny and she fired the nanny for scolding her. Then she bragged about how her youngest kid enjoys seeing her yell at staff, so she does that because he needs to know she supports him. Good job raising respectable members of society. Sure, they'll be great later in life. Nicki Minaj. She seems like a bully to other celebs. Cardi B, who she thinks is trying to steal her crown, and also the alleged allegations about her baby's father and her defending his criminal activity. Ellen DeGeneres. Her coming out was a huge moment in American gay rights, and then she turns out to be so toxic to her staff and guests. I hold a personal beef with Jenny McCarthy over her vaccine misinformation. She started a whole movement of anti-vax parents, and because of that, eradicated illnesses have started showing up again. She made autism diagnoses shameful enough that parents avoided medical treatment so they could avoid having a child with autism. Conor McGregor.